Hey everybody, it's Mrs. C, and I am coming to you with a video on, let's say, evaluating algebraic expressions. Now, it's called evaluating because, let's just take a look, they give you, and they being me, of course, I made this up. Some of you might think it looks a little familiar from class. It's because I'm using one that I saw a lot in class that you guys were struggling with. So there's our expression. It's, let's see if we can read this. P minus the quantity of Q squared minus another quantity of P minus Q. The quantity symbol's closed. So a couple of you were confused by this just because of all the parentheses. And it's called evaluating. Why? Because they give us the values of the variables. And therefore we can plug those variables in and do what we call plug and chug. Plug them in, chug out what you get when you put those in, and you evaluate the expression for the given values of the variables. Why is this confusing? Why is everybody having such a hard time with it? 'Cause it stinks. Let's just call it what it is. It's a lot of work, and you gotta really stay on top of what you're doing when you're doing evaluating. So let me give you some suggestions first. And these are all based on the mistakes I see you making in class, so trust me on this. If we take a look at the two variables, first of all, I picked P and Q because it seems like it's a popular combo of letter to pick, a P and a Q, and you might wonder why. I don't know why, guys. I think maybe is it to confuse us. P and Q look alike, but they're reversed. So P is a -2. So I want you to go find the P in the entire expression, and wherever you see a P, I want you to change it to a -2. But I don't know how many times I've said it. I'm going to keep saying it. You need to use parentheses when you input your variables, especially the ones that are negative. And I hope that you see why. So I'm going to input a little parenthesis -2 everywhere I see a P. So I'm actually going to make my font just a little thicker. And here's a P, and I'm writing right on top of it -2. And there's a reason, so just follow along with me for a second. There's another P, -2. They all look alike to me, right? The P's and the Q's look so similar. All right, now I've just got to go in and input my Q, and I'm changing the color for a really good reason. I'm trying to differentiate what's going on in my mind so that I can let my brain know what's going on. My brain so often doesn't know what's going on, right? All right, let's find the Q's. Here is a -4. -4, squeeze in there. And then there you are again. There's the -4, squeeze in there. All right, this is going to get a little complicated. What I want to do in my mind, you don't have to do this with all these colors. It would get very awkward. But I want to go over everything that I didn't just input. So, for example, this minus, the parenthesis, another minus. This parenthesis was there originally. So was that minus. So was this parenthesis. And so was this parenthesis. I want to actually rewrite those. And I know you're thinking, what? This is a lot of work, Mrs. C. Yeah, it's enough work to let your brain see what's happening. You don't have to do it every time. Now, what I'm going to do is put in the parenthesis, the red one. You see how it's color-coded, right? Just squeezing that in. I see one there, and I see one there. And let me go for my green. Hope I can pick the right green. I think it was this one. Now I'm going to squeeze in what? Can you tell? Right, -4. Good job paying attention. I got to pay attention here. This is complicated. Okay. That is the cleaned up version. There's a square somewhere. Thank you, guys. I see it. Or did you? Did you see this little guy? Was there all along, and when I did this, I forgot to put it right there. Hopefully you saw it and you were yelling at me. I didn't hear you yelling at me, so you have to yell a little bit louder. Excuse me. Let's do this. Now, when you're saying do what, let's just clean this up. And the first thing I want to do is I am going to switch back to a normal color because I don't want to make you think that there's any I don't know if black is the right color. It might not be easy to see. Let me do what do you feel like? Let's go back to yellow. I want to just take care of any kind of ambiguity, any kind of things which is going to be a little bit too much of something. So, for example, I'm going to bring my -2 down. Then I'm going to minus a parenthesis. And then, look here. This is the first thing I want to take care of. I'm supposed to square a -4. That means -4 times -4. That's 16. So I'm just going to write 16 here. I'm not going to write the parenthesis with the -4 inside and the square. Now I'm going to bring down the minus. This is just so you see where I am. And I do have to bring this next set of parentheses down for a second. I'm going to do the -2. Here's the next thing I'm going to do. Minus a -4. This is where a lot of you are screwing up. You're just putting a -4 in the substitution. It's minus a negative. That's plus 4. And then close your parentheses. That looks a lot cleaner. Now, what I want to do is anything that's in parentheses first, but you see you have double parentheses. Double parentheses, all that means is just do what's in the innermost parenthesis first. So because I'm out of space, I'm going to erase this. If you did not get that, you can always rewind, right? You don't need to see it here. You can rewind it and watch me do it again. I'm always hoping I didn't make a mistake at this point because it's so much harder to correct if I did. All right, so I'm working up now just so that you can see. I'm going to do what's inside the innermost parenthesis first. A lot of you, I'm going to rewind for a second. A lot of you are distributing here. And there's really nothing wrong with the distributive process of that negative or the -1, but we distribute when we have variables inside. For example, if it had been x plus 4 and a negative, I would have wanted to distribute that negative because there's no way to combine an x and a 4, right? They're not like terms. The difference now is you do have like terms. You have constants. A -2 and a +4 can be combined. What is it? Well, the signs are different. You subtract and you take the sign of the higher number. So what is a -2 and a +4? It's a +2. And that's why we're not distributing here, because you don't have to. And the distributive process will give you an added step that you don't need, and it's also where you're making mistakes. So I want to bring everything else. Usually I say down, but now it's up. Working up, I'm working up. Okay, there it is. All right, so now we have simplified this up to here. So we have a -2 minus the quantity of a 16 minus the quantity of a 2. Now the quantity of a 2, is there any reason to have that in parentheses? No, because there's no double sign. So I can just take those parentheses off. Minusing a +2 would give me a negative, and a positive would give me -2 again. So you see, it's really not necessary to have those parentheses if it's a positive. Really only if it's a negative do we want to be concerned. So, though I don't like to erase my process ever, I am, for the sake of space, going to write this. Now, isn't this looking a lot more simple than it did before? 16 minus 2. Well, you don't mind if I erase. Conserve more space. I'm just going to get rid of this, and now maybe I can work down and finish the problem. I should really write smaller when I work, but I didn't. Okay, so we do what's in parentheses first, and now we only have one parenthesis. So 16 minus 2 is a good old 14. Back in the day, 14. Now I have -2 minus 14 minus a +14 is the same as -2 minus 14. Same sign sum. -2 and a -14 is -16. I know I don't like working sideways, but I kind of have to here. So the final answer being a -16, using our evaluating, plugging in, and just working slow and steady, guys, with the parentheses. It can be tricky. You just have to work very carefully. And as I say that, I don't have an answer key to know if I did it right. So it's always concerning to me. I want to go back really quick right here. Why didn't I distribute? Because I didn't have to. 16 minus 2 is 14. I don't need to turn it into a -16 and a +2 to wind up getting what I would get all the way over here. The distributive property, I can already hear you asking this question in your minds. The distributive property won't make you wrong, but it gives you more opportunity to screw up. So in a way, sometimes it does make you wrong because you don't do it right because it's just too complicated because you didn't need to in the first place. All right, I gave you this problem because it seems as if whenever we raise, I don't know if you notice this, but whenever you're raising something to a power, that's kind of when we're making mistakes. That's very common, guys, and I just want to try to help you out a little bit. I'm going to make this guy, sorry about that, I'm going to make this one a -2. So I'm going to say -2 there and -2 there. Remember what I said about the parentheses. All right, let's make the B, maybe make the B a baby blue 3. Now watch me. I don't necessarily need parentheses because it's a +3, but parentheses never hurt as long as they don't confuse you when you're actually doing the work. So now let's fill some stuff. Wow, that's a big dot, isn't it? All right. Let's fill some stuff in with the white. That's not white. Okay, let's fill some stuff in with the white. We've got 3. Now, what is a -2 squared? I would like to actually do this instead of write all these little things in white. So -2 squared means -2 times a -2. -2 times a -2 is what? What is it? That's right, it's +4. Now, how do we write that in? Well, what was the relationship between the 3 and the a squared in the first place? Multiplication, right? When a number touches a letter. And so in the case of this, if a squared is actually equal to a +4, then the relationship is still multiplication. And I'm going to write it down. I'm not going to do that math in my head. Then I'm going to minus, what is 3 squared? That's what it says right there, 3 squared. 3 times 3 is 9. Moving on with my plus, what's 3 squared? It's a repeat, right? It's 9. And what's minus? What's -2 cubed? Well, cubed means -2 times a -2 times a -2. So a negative times a negative is positive, times another negative is negative. So a negative times a negative times a negative is actually back to negative. There's an odd number of negatives. That means you're going to wind up back with a negative. You need an even pairing of negatives to be positive, but that's overthinking it right now. Negative times a negative is positive. That positive times this negative would give me back to a negative. And what's 2 times 2 times 2? 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So we're at a -8. My goodness, too much thinking for me in the morning. All right, what was that? It was a -8. So now where did I wind up left? I was here. I see it. Try not to look up. That gets confusing. Okay, so a -2 cubed actually is a -8. You could do this, but that looks strange. I like to do this. What you can't do, don't do. I don't like X's for don't do. What you shouldn't do is just put that 8 and think that this little negative that's coming down is the -8 that you got when... I got it. Is the -8 that you got when you did the work. That's why we use parentheses. And I don't know that I actually said that good enough, so I'm going to rewind and show you what not to do. And why am I saying this? Because so many of you are doing it. You get to this step, guys, and you do the -2 cubed right. You do the -2 times a -2 is a +4 times a -2 is a -8, and you do this. Why is that wrong? Because you didn't account for the negative that was already there. Oh, I can hear it all over the world. Oh, no, I get it now. That's why they've all been wrong. Yes, that is why they've all been wrong. So you have to put that negative, and then the -8 that you get has to go down too, and there's the double signs. And that is why it seems like every time a lot of you do these that have the exponents, you seem to be getting some of them right. In this case, this probably wouldn't have given you a... That's the wrong one. That one probably would have. In this case, you would have been okay because it was a positive. It was plus. and you got 9 and you put the stinking 9 down. It wasn't an issue. Or in this case, when if you had a plus a negative, you just would have thrown down the negative and you would have been okay. It's when it's a negative or a minus on the outside that you're having trouble. Okay, I hope that cleared that up, and I hope I did that right with all that talking in between. Now I'm going to rewind here and just throw some stuff down. We got the 12 minus the 9 plus the 9. Ooh, I like that. And then a negative is positive 8. Do you see you can just do that? Did you? I hope so. Negative 9 and a positive 9 is 18. And you can kind of break the order of operations because of the commutative property that allows me to move my numbers around. Or you could say the associative property that allows me to put those two or associate them together before I go and do the others. There's kind of two basic properties working at the same time here, depending on how you look at this problem. So the negative 9 and positive 9 is 0, so I'm just going to get rid of it. I'm going to say the 12, which is a positive 12, combined with the 8, which is a positive 8, is going to give me my final answer of 20 when I evaluate this problem. And that's it, guys. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world that you've ever done, but I also know it's not conceptually the hardest thing that you've ever done. It's something you have to practice a little bit every day, and you need to practice it till you can limit your screw-ups down to a minimum. You will screw up. You just have to go slowly. And as I will go back over this video and hope that I didn't screw up, I might find that I did. And won't that be some fun annotating to do on YouTube? So anyway, I hope I cleared up some confusion for you. But now I got to go get ready for work. So you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to see you on the flip side. Later.